Right, so now I'm going to show this, um, which is a mirror thingy effect, and it faces the same way and stuff, and moves in the opposite direction. Um, yeah. Um, cool. So I'll just make it. I think it's not. It might not be as hard as you think it might be. So first, I think I'll actually make the collision part. So if we snap that to there, so that's the center point. Now I'll use triangle, hold it and use triangle to get it to snap there. You actually want it around like that so that it's thicker on this side, and I may explain why if we get that far. So, but this will be invisible anyway. I think for now I'll just make it shorter because we don't need it that high at all. Cool. And then we'll make it invisible. But first, actually, we will add the text box thing. The text box will just an effect to make it look like there's glass there. So the other side can be looks slightly opaque, slightly like faded out. So this is a mirror. You have to put some sort of character, some sort of text in there, otherwise it won't show anything. We'll turn off auto fit, so then we can just make it whatever size we want. Then we'll make the background less opaque. Did you know mirrors tend to be slightly green? Give it a very slight green tinge to it. Because the just the glass tends to be very, very slightly green tinted. Oh, where did the... Oh, I'm in play mode. I think I'll have it less tinted. Oh. What am I editing? There we go. Yeah. And it'll make it look slightly more realistic, maybe. Yeah, like if you can notice it when there's like an infinite mirror thing, and which means it's bouncing back and forth, but as it passes through the glass, all glass is like very slightly green. Gives it just like takes out some of the blue and red and yellow or whatever, I don't know. So then things look a bit more green as it bounces more and more. And that's the end of that tutorial. Thanks, guys. Okay, I'll just get a blank puppet because it doesn't need anything special. We'll turn off the grid. Well, I mean, most of the time you're looking through it to the outside, so then it tends to be sky coming through it. So, I mean, or it's going to be like a fish tank or something where there's water behind it, and then it might look slightly blue. Yeah. Well, it'll only mess with it if they actually update it from their side. So if they do that, that's on them. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. You don't tend to notice it in normal glass anyway. It's when it's mirrored, then it goes through the glass and then through the glass again to come out. By the way, have you noticed this bug? So most of the time you have a window or something using these text box method, but then when you get close to it and go at a certain angle, it seems like the glass disappears, but what actually happens is an even weirder bug where the inside becomes like a very, if you look at it from the other side, can we get it to happen? Over this side somewhere? Then the actual inside of the thing becomes like darker, very transparent, very slightly darkened colour, and it swaps to being like the border and to the edges and stuff. I think it's just a pure classic rendering bug, but it's been there for a while, so hopefully they'll be able to fix it. But this is a test stuff anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Right, so first, we want 2 puppets because we want one on the other side, and we'll make this a different colour. What am I looking for? Coat mode. I'll make it blue. And we want to put some logic in there as well. So first we want to match their positions but inverted. So let's get that working. Let's add a tag. So we don't actually need to name the tag, and it will become apparent why soon. We just want to we're going to use a transmitter to send the signal. That should be okay, and we want this to be the center of the actual puppet. So the microchip is there, so it'll default to being there, but we want it to be at the actual puppet, otherwise there or something, and it won't match up properly. So for this we'll turn on the grid, and we use L1 and triangle on the puppet, so it's like the perfect center of the puppet, hopefully. And then we'll grab this white dot, use triangle again to snap it to the grid. So now it's like between the feet, and this will become important later. So we need to name this. We'll call it pos for position. And for now, so we're going to build this incrementally, so don't worry about it working funny as we go. We're just testing and stuff. So wireless receiver, change that to pos. Remember to change it to scene, or to give it a area that will include this gadget. We'll just do it on the scene. So that's receiving pos. So for now we'll just give it a follower, like that. We could do this a couple of different ways, but this was the first one that occurred to me, so I'll just do it like that. So the follower will drag anything around towards a particular position, and I'll just delete that. So you might not know that if you drag the that might not work like that. If I just put on a mover, and have it move in in that direction. We'll have to increase the strength. Then it will still animate, do the procedural walk animations and stuff. And if you pointed it up, that's not working for some reason. Most of the time, like if I play time and just move it up. Oh, this isn't a. Let's show you with a deluxe puppet, because that has the jump stuff on it. And we'll just stick a mover onto that. They should probably make it so that the center of mass isn't the crotch, because it's just a bit like unnecessary, isn't it? Kids are going to be playing this, guys. Come on. So even the like jump stuff and that will animate properly. Just depending on how the puppet is being moved, then it animates the other stuff accordingly. So which means we can just use a follower. Yeah. But this is, so what we're getting from here is the tags scene space transform, which means it's got whoa, okay, which means, oh, okay, that's got a position, and it's got a rotation, and it's got a scale. We don't want any of that apart from position, because the follower can only take a position, target position. So we will split that. Oh, and it detects it, that's nice. And then just get the translation, which is basically the position for these purposes. And we plugged it into the wrong thing. You've got to plug it into target position. And this means instead of it following a tag, it's just going towards a particular target position. So actually we'll turn that off to show you what happens. Probably needs more strength. Oh, we're controlling the wrong one. We'll turn off the controller sensor. We could probably delete all that because none of it will do anything. But yeah, let's have a look at why that isn't doing anything. Let's play time. Yeah, give it more speed. So what we really want it to do is give it super speed, because we want it to be exactly the same spot. But the thing is, then it's moving towards our puppet. So I'll just demonstrate what's happening. Thanks, Pilarzito. Thank you very much. So it's moving towards the puppet, which is the tag position, which is on the ground there. But if you notice, it kind of starts dipping down as well. That's because the follower position is at the crotch. So it's trying to drag the crotch into the feet over there. Just don't talk about that anymore. So but we can adjust that position into the same spot on this puppet using the grid again. Snap the grid to there and put that between the feet as well. So now it's trying to get the feet to the feet of the other, I will just play time, of the other thing, and it knocks it out of the way. So we want to mess with the position that it's trying to get to by like flipping it over here, and that will be mirrored. Get the position mirrored anyway. So first we need to find a position that we want to flip it around. So for that we will use that again, snap it to there, and use a tag such as this. Okay, and we actually want to make sure, well, yeah, we want it to be in like the center. Yeah, so probably move it up. That's fine, because we're only caring about the 2D space down there, not the up and down, because that wouldn't be affected, I don't think. Cool, so that's the position of the center that we're flipping everything around. So we will need to send that out as well. So get a transmitter. There it is. And just send the same thing. Don't need to name this tag again, and we'll call it mirror. Cool. Then we use that. Oh, we don't need to name that, we need to change that. Use up and down on this field is that, oh, get that grid off. Is the easiest way. It will go through the relevant names of stuff. And yeah, cool. And then we want to mess with this position with some maths. So we want to split that as well, actually. So we get the position of both. Then do some math to it. Actually want to split that again because we don't want to mirror the whole thing. We don't want to mirror up and down. We want to mirror like left and right and forward and backwards. Oh, so first actually we want to get a baseline. So we've got this position here. We want to know where that is relative to this center point, so that then we can use that and flip it over there. So we've got a line from there to there, we can make a line from there to there. So we want to take that and subtract that position so that that becomes our 0. I don't know how to explain maths stuff so well, but that's what we're doing. And then plug our other one in. So calculators are very useful. They can do maths stuff to fat wires, and it applies to all the values from here minus all the values from here, and it spits out all the new values. So if we oh, we don't, yeah, we just want the position there actually, like so. So so I'll give you an example. Oh, I don't need 3, we'll just use 2. Set that to be, oh, set that to being 2. Oh man, this is going to take forever to set up. Okay, get a calculator. And we'll add these two together. Then we'll send to a splitter so we can see the final values. So we're adding 0.2, it's appearing over there, 0.2 to 0.7, and it's 0.9. Because A is added to A, and to produce the A value. And then have 0.3 added to 0.1 is 0.4, because B is added to B gives the B value, and that works with multiplication and everything. So it's real easy, real thermo efficient to just use a calculator instead of splitting everything and then combining everything. So real quick to do that. So now we've got that point relative to that central point. Now we want to flip it, which means we need to so we have the location, this position relative to the center. Now we want to split it out so that we can flip different values. And then we'll need to combine it again into a 3-part thing. I think we need, so this is X, Y and Z, by the way, because it's a position within the world. X is left and right, Z is up and down, not up and down, forwards and backwards, like you're going into and out of the screen, and Y is up and down, like you're jumping. So we want to leave Y alone, what am I doing? We want to leave Y alone and just send it straight through. We're going into there like that. Oh. But we want to invert the other two, maybe? I think I did this slightly differently in the example, but it should work this way anyway. Right, so we've got like x equals 10 and z equals 5. We flip it so that x equals minus 10 and oh, z we don't want to affect either. It might be the other way around, so yeah, that looks more like it. Right, let's see what that does. Oh yeah, and yeah, I think you're right. So once we've got that, it's still zeroed out relative to this center point. So then we have to add that back in, otherwise it will be like off somewhere crazy. Yeah, that is the thing. This kind of maths will be way harder to do if this whole thing was like off like that. But if you can do it on the axis, on a axis, it doesn't matter which axis, it will be way easier. So then we need to add back in the mirror point. I don't know if this is making sense to people. Cool. So that is basically just... I don't believe so. I don't know of any way of doing that, which is unfortunate. So we should be flipping this whole location thing over to here. So let's see if we did it right. Nope. So it is flipped. It's flipped along the wrong direction. So probably want it on the X instead of the Z instead of the X. So let's try that. Oh. And it even tries to jump at the right points as well. And there we're actually like bouncing off of that puppet, but not the collision thing. We'll add the collision back in later. Okay, so that part's working. Is that part making sense to people? The thing is, we'll have to do this for... we want to know if it's which way the puppet is facing as well. Probably, but you can up that. I mean, it's just default values right now. So set it to that. Oh, that's an interesting top value. So it'll always look like there's some lag because this puppet we're controlling knows which way we're trying to go, so it can kind of lean in and stuff like that, but like immediately. But the other one has to wait to know where it's meant to be heading towards. So there probably is just a frame lag, but during the game, I mean, it'll probably be fine. Okay, so what we're doing now. Now we want another tag so that we can tell it which way we're facing and tell this thing to face in the same direction, because at the moment you may have noticed we can face this way, but it's facing the wrong way. It's always facing towards like just the same direction it was going in. It started off in even. So for that we will turn on the grid, snap to there, and then we'll put it like way in front of it. So whatever direction, like if we go playtest mode, oh, it disappeared, but it'll be out in front of it, which is what we're going to want in a minute. So we're going to send that as well. but we'll call that face. And we want, so we've got some position in front of the puppet as to where it's facing. We want to mirror that as well, so that we have some position in front of that happens to be in front of this puppet that's the mirror of that position. So we want to do this whole thing again. So what we'll do, I'll turn off that because it's going to mess us up. We'll just make a chip. With some nodes. So this is the original. Position. This one is the mirror position. And this one is the mirrored position. And all this stuff is in between, because it will be the same exact. We'll just no, we'll copy it. Okay, put that over there. This is just so we can copy it easier. We could like export it and make it its own object and whatnot, but it's fairly simple to make that part. So I'll just leave it like that. Okay, and I want that to plug in there. That's the position, so that's the original. That's the mirror, so I put in the mirror. Nice and tidy. So we actually want to do this kind of thing, but in a separate place, because we don't want the facing logic. It could probably go in the same puppet group or whatever, but it's probably just a bit safer to do it outside. So let's reset the grid by using L1 and triangle just on the sky or something. And we will need a cube, which will make invisible and not collidable, and it won't interact with the imp, and it won't cast shadows. Then we'll turn invisible off. Hide preview invisibility off. Right, so okay, now we need a chip, and in this chip we want to follow to get to this mirrored position thing, because also we're going to have a tag, and we will name this mirrored facing, and we'll make sure this position is somewhere we know about, like the center of that. Okay, and then we can grab all this gubbins, copy it over, and change that to be looking for face, so that this whole cube, including that tag, will move to the mirrored position that we want to be facing towards. Now we just want to make sure this follower. Oh, we're still in the group, are we? Oh, because it was the reason for that. So if you weren't aware, if you drag something, this grid, right? So so you can set the position of stuff by dragging the little white gizmo, and then it will be that. Whoa, that's an interesting effect. We'll just press triangle on that. Anyway, then so it's got this position in the world, like there. If you drag it into microchip window, it will remember, it will leave it there. And if you go from window to window, it will still leave it wherever it was. But in this case, we don't want that. We want it to be over here on the grid, in the center of that box, in the same position. Why can't I grab that? In the same position as the follower. Oh. Okay, so if we look now, that's in the middle, that's in the middle. So this follower will get that tag's position to the right place, and it will be a job well done. So let's just make that visible before we go further to make sure that's working. It's not. Oh, it's in the center of the thing. That's interesting. Interesting. So that's face. Turn off the grid. Mirror. Face. Oh, what's that? Oh. Oh, I'm getting the wrong thing, that's why. That's the if it's detected output. We want the scene space transform. Delete the other one. Okay. So you can see it's like out ahead of where the puppet should face, which is what we want. So on the puppet, we'll just use the puppets thing. So we don't actually need any of that. Turn towards, and we'll set that to mirrored facing. Can we set that to max? And we also, because we don't want this to be rotating like through controls and stuff, this speed doesn't matter. We just want it to be at the right position all the time. So I'll make it the max. So now if we turn towards it, oh, now it's facing the same way we are facing. And that's about it. Oh yeah, and one last thing. So that works okay. One last thing, we have this sculpt here. We'll turn it on and make it invisible. So that we can't actually like collide with each other. What I was talking about earlier was, so this isn't like the same width on both sides. I will show you what happens if you do that. So okay, we'll do that, and then just stretch it like that. So now it's the same width on both sides. And it's working fine, but sometimes in my testing earlier, the puppet on that side would be, because it was so close, it was like kind of freaking out a bit and jittering around a bit. So so in this example, I made it in the example scene type thing, which you can go look up. I made it so that this side doesn't have collision basically, but this side does. So this can react fine to bumping into it, and this side doesn't have to worry about bumping into anything because it knows it has to be at a specific position. Like that. And because it's a mirror, I left imp interaction collide, so the imp can't click on anything, because if I did that, then then it could like move through here. But if we turn that to that, now it can't like mess with anything in the other side of the scene. Hey Typhus. Yeah, so we got a mirrored thing.